All right, welcome back to another edition of the PSA Sunday Sit Down. Very special guest today, Brooke Laing. Brooke, thanks for joining me. Really excited for this one.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, definitely. We met a little bit through Mike, through PSA, and the one thing that I've noticed when doing a little bit of research for this is it seems like you got like 15 different jobs. So where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about the most, and what are you most excited about?
So I guess I'll start with where I came from. So
Yeah,
by
and who you are.
trade,
Sorry, we skipped
yes,
right over that.
that's fine. My name is Brooke. I am a steam fitter welder by trade. I did that for about 5 years before I don't even know if you can call it fully transitioned into manufacturing, but that's the best way to put it, I guess. I actually met my fiancé on the job. Technically, we met in trade school, kind of reconnected. We went to high school in the same area, grew up around mutual friends, and then both ended up in the same union and reconnected there. Yeah, so my 19 million different jobs. We'll start with the order that I got them in. So, first, I currently work for the Manufacturing Connector, which is an industry media company. We help manufacturers tell their story, kind of more focused on the people, though. We don't care about the work, right? We want to showcase the people that are actually doing the work. After that, I joined AeroGrowth, which is a network slash coaching company, is the best way to put it,
Yeah.
for aerospace and defense manufacturers. So that's where I met Mike. He's one of my favorites. I think he's hilarious. It never fails to make me laugh on any meeting that we're on together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Mike. I mean, I have a running joke on this series. I think this is like the 5th or 6th episode we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you played a drinking game or sometimes, or, whenever someone mentioned something nice about Mike or, just something, just the name Mike in general, you have to take a drink. Then we would not be able to do this podcast because everybody would just be drunk. So,
Very fair.
But also a very happy belated Canada Day. I forgot
Yes.
you are one of the friends up north.
Yes.
So that brings me to the next question. I saw on LinkedIn, which great follow on LinkedIn for anyone out there. Follow Brooke. She's always posting really cool stuff. But I saw one of your adventures, if you want to call it that, is to visit 100 manufacturers in Ontario. So I just wanted to get an update on how that's going and why that goal.
So that goal originally started because obviously I'm very connected to American manufacturing. And as much as I love you guys, I want to be able to visit people up here too and kind of build the relationships up in Canada. So I was like, wow, I work from home now. Like, if I'm not on a meeting, I have the ability to just go drive to one of these shops and get to know the people that are there. So posted on my LinkedIn and was like, I want to see 100 machine shops this year before the end of the year. Like, if you know anyone that owns a shop, works in a shop, send them my way, kind of thing. I have been to, I think it's 29 shops. I haven't been able to post about quite a few of them because obviously I'm very connected in the aerospace and defense community. But I have seen some really cool stuff in these shops and I'm learning a ton from it, not coming from a manufacturing background, kind of being manufacturing adjacent. So,
yeah, no, that's awesome.
mm-hmm.
What are some cool things that you've seen that you can tell us about?
I saw the biggest machine I've ever seen in my life. I think it was a boring mill. Huge. Like, I feel like it was like 30 feet tall. I don't even know how they fit it in there. It was like the highest ceiling building I've ever seen in my life, but that was really cool, just like watching it go. And then also the stamping machines, which you wouldn't like, it makes sense that they're as aggressive as they are, but then you actually stand beside one and feel the floor shake. So that was also a cool feeling.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny you mentioned, so like being in Canada, I think you're in Toronto, right? Like Toronto area?
Yep.
So, and you're very well connected in American manufacturing. How did that happen? Being Canadian, but getting so connected into, the U.S. I know it happens a lot like on the Windsor side. Basically Windsor is just, part of Detroit at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
But not so much on the Toronto, I don't know, maybe Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, but like how did that happen for you?
Yeah, so I have some friends that I met through the Sister to Trades niche specifically. And she was like, she knew that I was interested and I wanted to learn. So she started bringing me to events. Like I went to Chris Lukey's Rochester event and we spoke on a panel there. but meeting a lot of people there. And then obviously just through LinkedIn, kind of having people in my network that do work in American manufacturing, commenting, sharing the stuff that I was posting. It kind of just happened very organically, which is nice. So,
Yeah. And when you were getting into this industry, did you sort of set out to be, I don't know, I hate to use the word content creator, but is that what you set out to be? Or did you set out to be more like, like the steam fitter, right? Who's just going to be in the shop or, be part of the union and, I don't know, meet your husband, right? but
yeah.
how did your sort of segue into content creation happen? And was there a moment when you're like, oh, wow, I'm actually pretty good at this. I should, put some more effort into content creation?
Yeah, I never thought I would end up here. If you would have asked me like a year and a half ago, I would have probably told you that you were mentally ill because I was like, I had zero interest in it. Like, social media for me was just a way to connect with my friends that I like knew in real life, kind of thing. But it all kind of kicked off. I just started posting on TikTok more because I realized there's a lot of people my generation who are looking to get into the industry and have no idea what it actually looks like. So a lot of my TikTok content focused just on showing people what a day in the life actually looked like, things that I did on the job, and also just like funny stuff that I was like, oh, this is like cool. This will show people that like my job's actually fun. And I posted one video. It took me 30 seconds to record, caption, and post. I recorded it on like a break at work, and then I just put my phone in my pocket and went about my day. And when I unlocked my phone at the end of the day, the video had 600,000 views. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
oh, wow. Yeah. And it didn't stop climbing. I think it's at like 1.8 million views now or something like that, and like thousands of comments. And then I posted a few other videos kind of just about the same thing, just like jokes about the job, this, that, and they all started taking off too. So I have quite a few videos that are like in the high, like 800,000 view level or more. And I was like, oh, wow, people actually like care about this stuff. Granted, probably 30% of the interaction is like hate comments, but at the same time, hate comments just drive the engagement. So
Yeah. What was that first video about? I mean, what was the
yeah.
gist of it?
It was just like a quick clip of me. There was a like trending sound at the time, and I was like, "Oh, I could use this like about work." So it was just a joke about like aluminum versus cast iron pipe wrenches. They weigh so, like the weight is different. You know the difference between cast iron and aluminum, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so I just made a joke about how I grabbed two pipe wrenches, not thinking of it, and when I went to pick the other one up, it was cast iron, and I just like fell over because it was heavy. Which is like a fun joke about being a woman in the industry, but also just about like the things that you actually deal with on a job site. Because I can't even count how many times I like went to pick up a pipe wrench and was like, "Oh, that's not what I thought it was," right? And I guess people liked that. A lot of the guys were commenting, like the old heads I call them, commenting, being like, "You shouldn't be on a job site. This is man's work." And I was like, "Okay, here I am." So
So does that make you just want to do it even more, like, and get the word out, build that personal brand, so that way when there are, and I talked to Ryan Hanley on our team about this a little bit.
mhm.
Obviously, he's a man, but so it's a little different. But like
Yeah.
I guess the stigma that he dealt with was, hey, you're not going to go to Votech, you're going to go to a 4-year college, you're going to, you're not going to work in the trades.
Hmm.
But then he went to college, hated it. Similar experience to you, I
Yep.
imagine. Um, is it, and now you sort of hear like, we need so many people in the trades and they're really good paying jobs and they're great careers. Is that something that you also want to, or feel responsible for at this time, to get the word out to other, young women, so that when they're, growing up, they would even, start to think about even having a career in the trades?
Absolutely. Before I like kind of kicked off in the content creation, I knew quite a few people that were in good positions where they could be like, "Hey, I want you to come speak at this high school just about your experience, about the different paths that there are," kind of thing. So I did get really heavy into speaking at elementary schools, high schools, all of that, just to show the young women there that there are people in this industry who look like them, who are successful, kind of thing. Um, but you'd be surprised at how many like young men also love to see people like me in the industry, right? Because I know quite a few people that are probably mid 30s, have young daughters, and they're like, I love what you're doing because my daughter can look at someone like you and be like, wow, I can really do anything that I set my mind to. So,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Can you
Hmm.
tell me about a few times maybe when you were doing some speaking where I don't know if someone came up to you afterwards or just to see the look in some people's eyes when you're talking, just like really see them start to engage and like maybe you notice when you're on stage like wow, these people are really paying attention to me and they're getting it. What that feeling is like for you.
Yeah, so my favorite was a few months ago. All of the like Skills USA, Skills Canada stuff was happening, and I have a few friends that work for Skills, like Skill Trade Ontario, and they were like, "Hey, we're doing this panel at our Young Women's Initiative." So they had one building for like the actual skills competition, and then one building was just like vendors, booths, conferences for young women. So they brought elementary school girls one day, high school girls the other, and I spoke on the high school day. There was probably 1,000 grade 9 to 12 girls in the audience, and we were speaking about just like what our jobs actually like, um, how our jobs help people, what we love about our jobs. And when I went back to my booth after, because Sisterhood had a booth there, and Noosh and I were there, we had young girls walking by being like, "Oh my god, you were on stage! Like your job's so cool." Right? So just like knowing that they actually listened and they were actually invested in what I was saying, it's honestly like you can't even describe the feeling. It's
Yeah.
just I love it.
And you're so young yourself. I mean, you're in your 20s, right? It's not like
Yep.
you've been doing this for 50 years.
Yep.
So to be able to have that kind of impact early on, and be able to connect with with those people, I think is it's probably only going to continue to be more and more rewarding. And as you visit these
Yep.
more, these 100 shops around Ontario, I would imagine you're going to start to see more and more women working in the shop, which will probably be cool
I
as well
hope
if you
so.
haven't already.
I haven't met a woman yet aside from like administration. I haven't met a woman on the shop floor yet.
So why do you think that is? And what do you think the answer to that is? And I don't know if it's different in Canada than it is in the US, but um,
I
it's
feel like
certainly, it's much more difficult, right?
yeah.
Just but
Yeah, I feel like across the board you're seeing certain trades blowing up on social media. Like everybody and their mother is a welder now. It's like crazy. You see it across like all platforms. Everybody's like becoming a hobby welder, which I love. So you're finding a lot more women in welding than you are in any other industry. And I feel like with the content creators that are kind of in the industry right now, it is a lot of men, right? For manufacturing. And that's changing. There's people like Becca Wolfinger that are out there making educational content. They own their own shop. Um, it's just hard as a woman to put yourself out there in this industry when you're already putting yourself out there by showing up every day, right? In an industry where 50 years ago there was not many of us at all. So to kind of double down on that and make yourself visible on social media as well, you have to expect the hate comments and the people that do not want you in the industry. Like I worked with older welders, 60, 70 years old, who just simply refused to work with me and wouldn't teach me because they didn't think I belonged there. Right. So it's I feel like that's part of it. Just trying to break the old boys club is the best way to put it.
sure. Yeah, and I think that's manufacturing in general, right? I mean, even on
Hmm.
the automation side, which I deal with a lot, is
Yep.
you see it's primarily dominated by men 55, 60 plus, and then there's sort of that gap where there's really no one, or not no one, I shouldn't say, but like there's really the from say I don't know 25 to 55, like that area of it seems like there's not as many people, right? Because
Yep.
the the older generation or the boomers here as we call them maybe they were all into manufacturing, right? But then they you get that narrative push like we were talking about with don't go into the trades, go to your 4-year university, and then
Yep.
people become accountants. And not to shame accountants or anything, but just saying
Of
like
course.
those office jobs and kind of the 9 to 5s. There was a trend there, and
Hmm.
now there's sort of that gap. So now with all the boomers retiring, there's a real gap between, I would want to say maybe people who are just starting out and upper management, right? Like most of the upper management is, retiring. So I've been saying for years, like what's going to happen here when these 60, 65-year-old, director of engineering types or, the people who are running the shops, they retire. What happens? Is that what you're seeing too?
Yeah, 100%. It's not even just like the generational gap, it's the knowledge transfer gap too. Because you get these people, again, close to retirement, they're 55 plus, and they're close to retirement, 5 years maybe, and they don't want to necessarily transfer all of that kind of tribal knowledge down because they're like, "Oh, if I pass on all this knowledge, like, they're gonna take my job, and I'll be out of a job then," right? So I do find that quite often, and there's a lot of people that don't think that way, and they see, like, this is the next generation, like, we need to teach them or all of this knowledge is gonna be lost kinda thing, but I do definitely still think that that's a big issue right now.
And one of the things that I've noticed, like, you know, I've worked at two different systems integrators and one software company, right? And the software company I worked at was trying to solve for that, where the tribal knowledge is being, how do we pass that down? How do we
Mhm.
solve for every time I go on a plant visit, I need to call the director of engineering, like stuff like that. But then also the first integrator I worked at, that's really how it was, right? It was laid out where it was an engineering group that existed, spun out of another engineering group from 25 years ago, and they did their thing, and then a business person came along and bought the company and was trying to, I guess for lack of a better term, bring the business side up to speed. But
Yep.
obviously, you need the engineering side. So every time I would go on a plant visit as a new salesperson, and keep in mind, I'm not an engineer. I have a communications degree. I was supposed to be a baseball broadcaster.
Yep.
I'm just kind of a sales guy. So I would go out to these plants, these food and beverage plants. I would look at a packaging line and I'd be like, okay, they've got like 5 different case sizes and they're palletizing it, blah, blah, blah. And I would write all these notes. And every single time I left, I would have to call our director of engineering, who was, probably in his 70s at this point. He
Mhm.
was the original founder of the company. Um, and and of course he would be like, yeah, we could do that, no problem. And then you got to call the CEO, who would be like, well, I don't know if we want to do that because commercially or whatever it is. So there's still that tribal knowledge. Like, how do you get all of that tribal knowledge from the founders, the 65 plus folks who have been doing it for 40 years? How do you transfer that to the younger generation? I think that's something that AI is certainly trying to help with, but I think there's going to be that gap. And like you experienced, sometimes the older generation isn't as willing to give up that information. Sometimes they are,
Yep.
but the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. But would just be curious to hear about maybe have you had any good experiences with that older generation in in your dealings and trying to, I don't know, get up to speed or in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been quite a few people from that older generation who kind of saw that I had potential. Not even necessarily potential. I feel like as long as in my industry anyways, if you show that you're invested, that you want to learn,
Mm-hmm.
60% of people are willing to teach you as long as you show that you're willing to take that knowledge in, right? It's just I feel like that other 40% is like, "Oh, this generation and their damn phones kind of thing, right? So they don't think that we actually care, which I understand. I see it all the time on job sites. You got the 18-year-old kid that just came from high school who's hiding in the corner on his phone, um, and like we're all guilty of it. We all go on our phones throughout the workday. It is what it is, but
That's how you got so many impressions on that TikTok.
yeah,
It's
exactly. But yeah, it's just like I think that knowledge transfer is so valuable. And you just have to show that you're actually invested. And people are willing to invest in you, right? Like a lot of people, at least since I transferred to manufacturing industry, kind of see the value in me as a person, not in the skill set that I have to offer. They understand that I'll be willing to learn. So I feel like that's number one tip is just show that you're willing to learn and you'll likely win over a majority of that older generation.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And what's cool now to see is the really forward thinking organizations. I think PSA is a great example of this, but
Hmm.
it's just like if you have some younger engineers and some older engineers, it's cool to see them work together, right? Because
Yeah.
you walk into a plant and the older engineer might be like, oh, this is exactly like that project that we did in 1994. And it's like that was 30 years ago, 30
Hmm.
plus years ago. And imagine all of the advancements in technology and all these things in the last 30 years. So then to see like the younger generation come in and kind of put their 2 cents in, I think that's
Hmm.
what will really power sort of that knowledge transfer and almost like I don't know, bringing or modernization of these these shops and things like that, because you really need both. And eventually what's going to happen is like like we were talking about, the older generation will retire, the newer generation will kind of take over. And I'm hoping, and I'm sure you're hoping too, is from learning from like the last, I don't know, however many years, is you really need to continuously nurture an industry and not just say neglect it for a long time to see it grow.
Absolutely.
But yeah, awesome. So let's see, what else could we get into here? So I think the one thing I wanted to talk to you too about was you've been to a lot of these shows recently. You've done a lot of traveling all over the place. What have you noticed? Maybe some trends in the industry, some things that you are excited about. Whether it be on the welding side, whether it be women in manufacturing, whether it be content, TikTok, newsletters. What are you excited about right now, and where do you want to spend most of your time, moving forward?
I see a big push for the next generation. Big push. At every show I've been at lately, there is conferences, panels, all of that, specifically for women in the industry, specifically for that next generation, trying to show them all the different career options. Because when you look at the trades as a whole, you think of you're on the tools, you're working your body until it doesn't work anymore, kind of thing, right? And a lot of people don't realize that there's so many other options. Like, I might not be on the tools anymore, but I'm still helping to showcase the industry, kind of thing, right? So there's that side of it. There's the content side, there's the admin side, there's the ownership side, right? Like, it doesn't just have to be the tools all the time. So I really love seeing that big push for that right now.
Is it, for you, is it interesting to be on the, I don't know, content creation, marketing, I don't know, brand awareness side of things now versus like being in the shop? Or do you ever sort of feel like, hey, maybe I just want to go back and work in the shop for a week every once in a while or something like that? Is that, how do you balance sort of where you are now versus where you came from?
Well, with Eric, my fiance, still working in the industry, I get to hear about it every day after work when he gets home. So I still feel connected. But at the same time, like, I miss it. I can't lie and say that I don't, right? I feel like my time there formed the person I am now and how I carry myself and my work ethic, right? So I have a lot to thank that industry for, but at the same time, I'm also like never going back if unless I absolutely have to. Like, I would live in a cardboard box on the side of the road before I went back to working on a job site, in all honesty. I just like I knew when I got in, as much as I loved being on a job site, I loved the guys that I worked with, all of that, that I wasn't going to stay there forever. It was a stepping stone is the best way to put it, I guess. So,
And it seems like you're pretty entrepreneurial. So do you
mhm.
take that, entrepreneurial spirit, and is it in the back of your head like, man, I'd love to have my own shop someday, and really sort of instill the values that you're pushing today, and sort of allow you to, I don't know, put those priorities into existence in an existing shop, right? Like, machine shops are hot right now, right? Everybody wants to buy a
Yep.
machine shop. But it's, is there part of you that wishes you could run your own shop and run it the exact way that you want to, based on like all the things you've learned in your, short, few years? Like,
Hmm.
imagine what you'll know in 10 years, right? Do you ever think about that? Like, is that on
Yeah.
the horizon, or on the bucket list to have your own shop?
Not a machine shop, but
Mm.
Eric and I have talked countless times. And so in our little friend group, so Eric's best friend is a plumber. So in our union, we have welders, steam fitters, plumbers. So I'm a steam fitter welder, Eric's a steam fitter, and our friend Tyler is a plumber. So we always talked about opening our own mechanical company, because then I could take care of the welding side, Eric could take care of the steam fitting side, and our friend could take care of the plumbing side. And I don't think that dream is still like gone. I think it's still there, because I feel like if I leave it to them to run it, then I can just like oversee and be like in the background and then still do what I love doing. Because traveling and getting to help people, like, I'm sure you understand this, getting to help people tell their story to a bigger platform and just kind of showcase the things that they love is what I feel like my actual calling is. But I would
Yeah.
still love to own something one day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, and
Hmm.
I feel the same way, right? That's one of the reasons why we started this sit down, is like, there's
Hmm.
so much content out there right now about like, okay, here we are at this trade show booth that's been the same exact booth for the last 5 years. Here's what they're showing, like blah blah blah. And I'm just like, I'm not technical, so that's,
Yep.
every time everybody's probably sick of hearing me say that, but I'm really not. And what I really like is, meeting all of the different people and learning about what they do and what they're passionate about. So like for me, just talking to you about, who you are, I think is a better story and will help, more people along the way on say LinkedIn or any platform, right?
Yep.
People will get more about hearing a personal story than they will about, the 20th, review of an application, right? To me, I mean, yeah, those exist, right? You could have some whiteboard videos and nerd out on the technical aspects, but I like the human side of the business. And I think that's what's been really fun for me. So, but before I let you go, we talked a lot about, I don't know, say the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years for you. What were you like, as a kid? What did you think you were going to do when you grew up? Did you want to be a vet or an astronaut or, all the common things that, kids want to be? Like I've got a 4-year-old who's, insisting on being a firefighter right now. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I feel like my whole life I wanted to go into forensic science. Yep. And then I realized I was really bad at math, which is crazy because I still ended up using math every single day. Never thought I would actually use Pythagorean theorem, but I used it every single day for 5 years. So I wanted to go into forensic science, realized that I was really bad at math, and I was like, wow, that's just not for me. And then I was also a COVID graduate from high school. So the last year and a half of my high school experience was lockdown. So I didn't get a prom, didn't get a graduation. And in that time, I think I changed my mind like 4 times. I was like, I'm going to be a paramedic. And then I was like, nope, I'm going to be a social worker. Then I was like, nope, I'm going to be a diabetes nurse because I'm also type 1 diabetic. And that's what I stuck with for a while. Went to college, lasted 3 weeks, dropped out, took a semester off. And then I was like, wow, maybe welding. And that's where I ended up.
So I think the theme is pretty common, though. It seems like you always wanted to be involved with people and helping people with, in terms of things that were passionate to you, right? Like all the things that you just talked about, all centered around people. And now you take that focus on people into welding and, onto LinkedIn and TikTok. And I mean, the community that you're building already is just amazing. So that's really cool to hear. And as a Canadian, are you a hockey fan?
No.
No? Baseball?
Yeah.
Okay, so Blue Jays, or are you sad about the Expos? Well, I guess you're in Toronto, so you're probably Blue Jays.
Expos were before my time. I think they disbanded before I was even born.
Cool hat, though.
Yeah, great logo. Yeah. Love the Jays. Grew up watching baseball. Grew up in a baseball family. Played baseball when I was a kid. But we're really big football fans in this house. So
awesome. So Bills?
No.
No?
No, I'm 49ers, Eric's Raiders, and then we also watch college. So I'm Georgia Bulldogs and he's Crimson Tide. So we fight during college football season, but
nice. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's fun. I mean, you can start a lot of wars on LinkedIn if you just write Roll Tide or something like that, right? Or
well, I've started. I want to start a LinkedIn network fantasy football league. I think it would be super fun. So
yeah, I've always said, so speaking of just random projects, I bought the domain name for Automation After Hours, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I've always sort of had the idea to do a podcast similar like the one that we're doing right now, where you're just shooting the shit a little bit. But I was always saying it would have a, fantasy football league for sure. And all these things. And it's kind of cool to see, there are some leagues that exist out there, in the industry and they'll get together at, an event like Pack Expo or whatever, and they'll play golf and they'll do their, their fantasy football punishment, all that stuff. So maybe that's, let me know if you start that.
I'm working on it. League, so. I'm going to post about it soon. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah. Look out for that post. I'll definitely be reposting that one.
Beautiful.
Cool. Well, awesome, Brooke. Anything that you want to mention that I forgot? Anything you want people to know about you? Anything random?
No, nothing comes to mind, honestly. I feel like we talked about a lot. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is super fun. This will be out on Sunday because it's Sunday Sitdown. Sometimes I edit on Monday. Don't tell Mike. But yeah, it'll be up on YouTube, and I really appreciate the time, and looking forward to continuing to follow what you're doing. I think it's awesome what you're doing for for women in trades and things like that. So
yeah,
thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.